Hi, I hope all is well with you and that you're staying safe. This week, we're reading Parshas Yisro. And the very first pasuk of the Parsha teaches us that Yisro, the father-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu, although he was a Gentile, decided to join Klal Yisrael after hearing all of the nisim that the Ribono Shel Olam performed for Bnei Yisrael as they left Mitzrayim. The question is, he wasn't the only one to hear. The entire world heard what was going on in Mitzrayim. The entire world heard about Kriyas Yamsuf. Why was Yisro the only one to convert? I remember a story that Rabbi Hanoch Teller used to tell of being in a taxi on his way to a speaking engagement early in the morning. And the taxi found itself on a street with a lot of teenagers on their way to school. And the teenagers were walking in the street. They weren't walking on the sidewalk. And they were blocking traffic. And the taxi driver honked his horn, but no one seemed to care. No one moved out of the way. And at one point in time, after honking a few times, he lowered his window and he shouted, "Don't you hear the horn? I'm blowing the horn. Why don't you move out of the way?" And one of the teenagers turned back to him and said, "We hear the horn, we hear the horn." The driver retorted by saying, "It's not enough to hear, you have to listen." Yisro was the only Gentile in the world who not only heard, but he listened. Yisro, as we know, as Rashi points out, was an individual who served every avodah zarah. At one point in time in his career, he was the high priest of all the idol worshippers. Yet he gave it all up because he was searching for truth. And when he heard the truth, he decided that his only place to be would be with Klal Yisrael. I think the example of Yisro is very apropos for us, especially in these very, very difficult times. Ever since the summer, the American news broadcasts that I occasionally listen to have begun with either the weather report of fires on the West Coast, flooding, then to mass shootings, to 8 feet of snow in Buffalo, to ice storms, to tragedy all over, and this week to the devastating earthquake in Turkey and in Syria. The Ribono Shel Olam is talking to us. The question is it not enough to hear? Are we listening? He wants us to pay attention. He wants us to realize that life is very frail. Life, unfortunately, chas v'shalom, al tiftach pel satan, can be stuffed out in a moment. He gives us life to do something with our lives. He wants us to have a relationship with him. Are we working on that? Do we think about the Ribono Shel Olam, or do we go about our lives? Sure, we daven, we shomer Torah and mitzvos, Baruch Hashem. But do we think about the Ribono Shel Olam? Is he really part of our lives? When we enter a business meeting, do we think about how we're going to succeed through our own brilliance? Or do we realize that the success that we will achieve is only beyond Hashem, is only in his hands, regardless of how brilliant we are? Or perhaps, even if we're not that brilliant, we'll succeed if he wants us to succeed. Even when we go shopping, we're looking for a new outfit. Do we give a second to think, Ribono Shel Olam, please help me find what I'm looking for? In all areas of our lives, in shidduchim, in relationships, hakol b'dei shamayim. The Ribono Shel Olam is talking to us. There's a Gemara that says when there's paronios in the world, when there's tragedy in the world, the Ribono Shel Olam is bringing the tragedy because he wants Klal Yisrael to wake up. And we have to realize that the Ribono Shel Olam, as I've said, is talking to us. He wants us not only to hear, he wants us to listen. And I'd like to suggest, and it's not my suggestion, it's a suggestion of the Gedolim, that we strengthen our Yirah Shamayim by spending a few minutes learning Musar every single day. And if we're learning Musar, to perhaps increase the learning we're doing and add to it, so that we can become more sensitive in our Yirah Shamayim, in Avodas Hashem. And for those of you who've never learned the Mesilas Yesharim, I would highly recommend Rabbi Avigdor Miller's commentary on Mesilas Yesharim. For many people, Mesilas Yesharim is a bit of a difficult sefer to learn. With Rabbi Miller's commentary, it's very easy to understand, as he explains it so beautifully and so eloquently. Another sefer that I don't have to show you, but one of my favorites, is the Sheish Mitzvos Tamidios, the 6 constant mitzvos of Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz. The Ribono Shel Olam is talking to us. We have to listen. And we have to daven that Amir Hashem, the Peronios, the tragedies, should stop. And that he should bring Mashiach. So we should not be confronted with all this terrible news, whether it's happening to Klal Yisrael or it's not happening to Klal Yisrael, it doesn't really matter. It's still tragic news. And we can only hope and daven, do our share in Esther Ribono Shel Olam to redeem us from this terrible, terrible galus and bring Mashiach to Meher V'Yameinu. Have a wonderful day and a meaningful Shabbos.